I'm going to go with you over the material of chapter 7 so that you can understand it better. Chapter 7 is very similar to chapter 6 in the sense that you're going to read an area under a curve. The main difference right here is that you have a sample that is selected. And once you have a sample selected, you need to describe the sampling distribution of the sample means. In this case, there are 3 different situations for you to memorize. As you can see, I have put right here للحفظ. The first situation is when the sample is selected from a normally distributed population. This means that the sample is normal and you don't really care about sample size. You can directly use mu of x bar equal to mu and standard deviation of x bar is equal to standard deviation over square root of n, where mu of x bar is the mean of all possible samples selected from a population and the standard deviation of x bar is the standard deviation of all possible samples selected from a population. In this case, you are able to solve like chapter 6. The second case is whenever the population is not normally distributed but n is large. And what we mean by n is large is that n is greater or equal to 30. In this case, the central limit theorem applies and we abbreviate the central limit theorem using CLT. And the sample here is not normal, it is approximately normal. And you are able to use mu of x bar equal to mu and standard deviation of x bar equal to standard deviation over square root of n. The third case is whenever the population is not normally distributed at n is small. What we mean by n is small is that n is less than 30. You simply write cannot solve. To explain this more, I'm going to use the following example. The following example reads as follows. The mean number of chocolate bars consumed per week by a child is 10 with a standard deviation of 4. If a sample of size 31 is selected, what is the probability that the mean number consumed is less than 8 bars? Mind you, right here you are being given a sample, and once you are given a sample, you need to describe the sampling distribution. Again, right here you're being asked about the mean of the sample, whereas in chapter 6 you were asked about the probability of one observation. Here they're telling you what is the probability that the mean number consumed is less than 8. They are actually asking you about P of x bar less than 8. What you do right here is you start by describing the sampling distribution of the sample mean, just because there was a sample in your exercise. And you start by saying that the population is not normal. And how did you know that the population is not normal? Simply because they did not tell you it is normal. Now, you start by saying population is not normal, but n equals 31, which is greater or equal to 30. So the central limit theorem applies, and the sample is approximately normal, and you're able to use mu of x bar equal to mu. You replace that by the value of mu, which is 10, and standard deviation of x bar is equal to standard deviation over square root of n, and you replace that by 4 over square root of 31. Again, you just draw your graph like you did in chapter 6. The only difference is instead of reporting mu and sigma, you're going to report mu of x bar and standard deviation of x bar. And instead of using x, you're going to use x bar. Remember, x bar is equal to 8, which is less than 10. This is why we're placing it below the mean. You standardize, you change mu of x bar to 0 and standard deviation of x bar to 1. And you calculate the value of z using the formula x bar minus mu of x bar over standard deviation of x bar. You replace that by 8 minus 10 over 4 over square root of 31, and you get negative 2.78, and you place it on your curve. Now remember that z table reads from the mean to z. So once you get the value of the area of z, which is 0.4973, and you get that in a similar way, you read it from the z table just like we've done in chapter 6. Once you get that area, you're going to subtract 0.5 minus a1, and you get the 0.0027 because he wants the area that is less than 8, and the curve reads only from mean to z, and all of this part is equal to 0.5. Now this is the part that you need from chapter 7, and I have posted for you the whole lecture with the exercises already solved. please go over the lecture with the exercises, and whenever you need, go back to this audio to listen to the explanation of chapter 7.